Hello guys, because lots of you asked me what I've done here with this homemade Android head unit, I decided to make this video and hopefully you'll understand what I've tried to do here. So basically it's just a single board PC running Android. Is this one here, you can see it here, this thing. Got it from eBay for around £50 or something like that. It's just an open source TV box, but it has some advantages, like, I don't know, online community where you can get support, and has all those pins, you can see them behind. You use them for, I don't know, a GPS sensor, USB, things like that. So I've got that thing. Good. After that, what? You need a display, okay, to make it work. It's this one. It's a 10-inch display, touchscreen. It's got the controller board, this one here, which it has an HDMI connector, VGA, which I don't use. That one there, it's for a rear view camera input. Behind it you can see this small connector here. So basically there, if you want to connect a rear view camera, sorry for the focus, okay, so if you have a rear view camera, okay, you connect it to that thing there, and on this connector here, the white connector, you can connect it to your 12-volt rear view switch, okay? So basically when you're putting your car in reverse gear, you'll get 12 volts here, the screen will automatically switch to that input, you'll have rear view camera. Good. So this is the control board for the display. After that you need touchscreen. Touchscreen is not working now because I haven't connected it, but you can see here that's the controller for the touch panel, just the touch panel. So basically this one is a display. I have applied a touch panel on it and that's it, nothing more, nothing complicated. All those things, external things, works through this USB hub here. This USB hub here is connected to this board, this single board PC, okay? So everything I wanted to connect to it goes through this USB hub. I'll probably use this display, the touchscreen panel. I'll use an external GPS sensor, because obviously I want GPS. This board doesn't have a GPS on it. I will use a sound card because I want to have this optical output. I have the sound card right here. I'll use that one. Now it's connected to my computer. But yeah, I'll use that one because it has this optical output, like I said, that one. And I don't know, a USB memory stick, stuff like that. So after I've got all those things here, I had to put them all together. Of course, everyone wants to, you know, get into the car, put the ignition on, everything starts and works like a normal head unit. So for this, I had to, you know, make those things here. This is the power supply, power management thing. This single board PC has a power button. I don't know if you can see them. There's 3 buttons there. One is for power, one is for reset, and the other one I can't remember right now. But because it has that power button there, this thing can go into some sort of standby mode, like a normal phone. I mean, you press that power button, it stays on, but in the same time in a standby mode, if it makes sense, to not consume that so much power. And anyway, so somehow I had to control that button on the ignition state, okay? But the problem is, when you turn on the ignition on your car, you'll have a 12 volts constant. That thing there, that button, works with just a simple push. Okay, you push it and that's it, you release it, that's it, it turns on and off like a normal button. After that I had to connect it to 5 volts because this thing works on 5 volts and it has this power connector here. It's a USB type C and I didn't want to, you know, run another cable there, a thicker cable. So I just soldered some wires behind it where the power is, the power pins. And I have here 3 power supplies, 3 converters, I don't know how to call them, what they are called. This one supplies 5 volts for this USB hub. It's powered separately from this thing. It also powers the cooler right here. After that we have another one there behind, that's for the display. And this one I needed 5 volts on the ignition. So this one runs on 12 volts because that's the voltage needed for the display. And the other one in front of it, it's to supply me another 5 volts, but when I turn the ignition on, okay? After that, I've searched on Google, with not much success, I'd say, how to transform, to convert a toggle switch into a momentary switch, because basically that's what I needed. When you put the ignition on, you have a constant 12 volts. You need to transform that in a single pulse and send it to this computer, right? So basically to simulate that press of the button. So I didn't find anything on the internet to match my needs, I don't know. And I've made this board here. It's my own invention, my own, I don't know, my own thing. Never seen it before. It's very basic, it's very simple, but my electronic skills are not that good. So what I've done here, you can see those 2 wires goes to the button, okay? So here I get a pulse every time I turn the ignition on or off. This one is the relay that does this thing, okay? So every time I put the ignition on or off, this relay here gives me a pulse to those pins. This relay is controlled by 2 capacitors. I don't know if you can see them, are there, okay? Those 2 capacitors holds charge when the ignition is on or off. Each one of them, so one of them is holding charge when the ignition is off, the other one when the ignition is on. So this relay here is controlled by those 2 capacitors. The other 2 relays, one is for charging the capacitors, the other one is switching this relay between those 2 capacitors, okay? So every time I put the ignition on or off, I have a small charge in those capacitors there, discharge it into this one for I don't know, half a second or something like that to give me the pulse, okay? So I have a short circuit for a short moment of time on these things. If you ask me about that thing, I don't have any schematics, anything like that. It was just, I don't know, pure imagination, and that's it. I just put it on the paper, soldered those things, and that's it, nothing more. It's not very good, in my opinion. I have to work on something else. So, when you put it into your car, this thing will start. Won't be in standby, will just run, okay? This board here doesn't know the state of the computer, doesn't know if it's on or off. So, after I install it into my car and turn on the ignition, instead of turning the computer on, we'll turn it off. So I'll have an on display, but the computer will be off, will be in standby. Of course, I can solve that thing by just pressing the button on the remote control, turning it off first, and after that put the ignition on, okay? So everything will be synchronized. It's not a very good thing, because every time you remove your battery from your car, or I don't know, something happens, you have to, you know, take care of this thing and synchronize it. It's not difficult, but I'm a bit lazy and I'd like to, you know, this thing to know when that thing is on. Also, if I want to, I don't know, just turn my computer on to leave it on from, I don't know, certain amount of time, things like that. I still have to work on that. I'll explain it later. So now, this thing is basically my ignition, okay? Imagine this thing is my key and I turn it on or off. Now it's on. Press the button, everything turned off, the cooler is off. Somewhere there should be a light, now is off. That will tell you the computer is in standby, okay? This power supply still runs because it has to supply 5 volts for this one to keep it in standby. Everything else is off, okay? This one is off here. No, this one is on. Anyway, I don't remember exactly what I've done there to make it work and work well. The display is off. When I turn it on, the display should start. Okay. And hopefully you'll be able to see that light there. Yeah, it's there. Came out of standby. To prove that, I'll just run an app. I'll leave it open. Okay. So I just opened my music app. Turn it off. Display went off. That's in standby. When I turn it off, when I turn it on now, I should see the app running, okay? There it is. So this thing stays in standby, which is very good, because you don't want every time you turn on or off your car to, you know, shut down this computer, and after that when you turn it on to wait for that boot time to load every app and everything like that. It just stays in standby. The power consumption is very, very low. I'm not worried about that. The thing I'm worried about is this thing, because I don't trust it. Like I said, it's my own invention. I've made it. I haven't seen it everywhere else before. So in the future I will try. I already started to work on it. I've got this little thing here. It's an Android Nano board, Android Arduino, sorry. I will try to make a better power management for all those things and remove all those unnecessary things here. Like I said, now if you install it in your car, everything won't be synchronized. You'll put the ignition on, that thing will go off and so on. I don't like this idea. I've got that Arduino board there, which will help me to make a better power management. How? It's simple. You just run 2 wires on it, 2 inputs. Okay, one will come from the ignition. You'll read the ignition state, and the other one will come from that one. Okay, from the computer. You'll get 5 volts from there. So based on those 2 wires, those 2 inputs, I can write the code and tell it what to do, when to power it on, when to power it off. Okay, so when I will first install it in my car, obviously that thing will be on. Okay, so will give me 5 volts in that thing, but in the same time the ignition will be off. So first time when I'll put the ignition on, instead of sending me a signal to turn that thing on, will do nothing, because that's how it should do, but will turn on the display. I can control that. Okay, with this thing I can control that thing, I can control the display, I can control the board itself. Okay, so it won't send that momentary pulse to turn that thing on, because it's already on. You don't need that. Okay, again, you turn everything off, but you want to listen music, okay, with your engine off. You don't want to turn on your ignition. With that thing I can do it, okay. I can turn it on from the remote control. I can turn the computer on from the remote control, but the display will remain off now, okay, because it doesn't know it has to turn it on. With that thing I can turn the display on, just the display, okay. After that, let's imagine you put the ignition on and want to go somewhere with your car. This thing, if you put the ignition on, will send a pulse, will turn it off. You don't want that to happen, okay? You just want it to keep running. This Arduino board will do all those things. I've already wrote the code for it. I didn't test it because I don't have a test board. I will do that. I don't know when, because like I said, the time is not my friend. But anyway, that's it. It's nothing complicated. Like I said, my electronics skills are not very advanced. Everything is basic here. Basically, I just got all those things, put them together, and that's it. It runs. It's nothing complicated. This board here, it's a bit useless, I would say. What I've tried to do is just take this capacitor that will hold charge for when you turn on your car. So you put the ignition on, the display will turn on, okay? But after that, when you start your car, you know, there's a voltage drop there. So the display will turn off for, I don't know, a second or something like that. I don't want that to happen, so that's why I put that capacitor there. That's the only thing that does that board. Is nothing important. Other than that, I don't know. That's it. It's nothing complicated. Another thing, I forgot to mention it. Another thing that I will be able to do with this thing is to make the steering wheel controls work with this. Because I have those pins there. I can convert the signals coming from the steering wheel with this thing and send signals directly to the board, and I don't know, use my steering wheel controls, change the song, turn up the volume and things like that. I can do that with the remote control. This thing has a remote control, but you know, why not? So that's it. If you have questions, just comment or send me a message. That's it. Hopefully you understood what I've tried to explain here, what I've done here, what I've tried to do here, and see you next time.